A sack! Nolan Smith, guess who, baby? More pressures from him than TJ Watt since week 6. Let's see if we can get a Trevor Lawrence interception while you mention your buddy. There you jinx it. Trevor Lawrence over the middle, complete. It's picked off! He did it! We called it! Zack Baun! Oh my gosh!
Four-man pressure with a spy. Hurt steps up, throws Goddard. Big catch! There goes down. Got a first, got a more. Got to 40. Got to 30.
Goddard!
Goes to 20. There he goes, 10.
Oh
Goddard down to the 4. He's at the 4.
5 on the play clock. He'll take the snap. Four-man pressure coming. He's going to step up in the middle, try to take off and run. Jalen Carter there. Brings it down. It's a sack! He fumbles the football.
Barkley, right side. There he goes.
Go! Go! Come on! Yes! Let's go! Saquon! There you go. You got it. You got it. You got it. Ah! Gotta do it. Oh my God!
Yes, I got it. And it is intercepted.
Free!
Yes!
Reflected
Jim!
Goes! Yes! Let's go! No, he'll keep it right side, going to try to get the corner of the 5. Touchdown! Jalen Hurts! Hit as he throws, but it's A.J. caught! Touchdown! A.J. Brown! The go route one-on-one.
End zone, that's going to be...
The Colby D! What's up, everybody? A little bit early Wednesday link, but we're here. Thomas, how you doing?
Doing great. Final Wednesday link before an Eagles game this season, which is exciting because we're in February and the game is the Super Bowl, but also pretty crazy that it's almost done. It's almost over. Regardless what happens on Sunday, we will not have another Eagle football game until the middle of August of this year, which is pretty crazy.
That is. It's been a fantastic year. We've done this a number of times, as you said, but like to be here, it's one of those things. And I'm pretty sure you're probably feeling the same. We texted back and forth, obviously, but I've seen so many comments. This week has gone by unbelievably slow. There's so many times today that I was like, man, today's like a Friday. It feels like a Friday. It should be Friday, but we're only at Wednesday. It's it's all right. Hey, get the team, more practice, healthy, all that. That's great. But we will get into that news for people that are asking, questioning there.
Sure.
But, it's just like the build up to this thing could not be any slower. I know we're all hyped for it. We cannot wait to get till Sunday. But, I guess it's the blessing and the curse of it. We'll take this because we're in the Super Bowl, so we just have to deal with it.
What's crazy, too, is that we're one of the few teams outside of the Chiefs who's been to a Super Bowl multiple times in the past 2 years, the past 7 years with the 3 Super Bowls, and yet you still don't get used to this 2-week bye-week break where there's a little bit of news the first week. Not a lot this week, plenty of media sessions, but most of the questions being asked to these guys have been ridiculously stupid and completely, waste of time in terms of giving us actual information. But we're finally getting some estimated practice in terms of, health for these guys. We'll talk about that here in a second. And I think the guys are ready to just practice the next couple of days and play the darn game because 2 weeks for us is very long. 2 weeks for them probably feels like an eternity.
Yeah, you're right. If we're sitting here and we know the moments of like, AJ saying like we're paid actors, several references to Alshon Jeffrey interview, the others that we've seen. So, I sit up there and I ask sometimes, I know a lot of people have watched this, but like, what are some of these questions? I get the kids being up there and asking. That's fine.
Sure.
That's cool. That's all right.
Sure.
But some of the questions from these, legit. And I know some people try to sneak in there. They're not actual, but there's some legit reporters that are asking questions.
Sure.
You're like, huh? We're really having a media day session for you to ask. Like, what's Jalen's favorite enchilada? Yeah, it's like there's just some crazy stuff out there, but it's newsworthy, I guess.
It's just how it is. It's just how it is. It's just It's turned into the Monday Night Media Night, just trying to get a soundbite and go viral on Twitter. But in doing that, you kind of look like an idiot. And the NFL doesn't really have a need for that night anymore, it seems. Like, there's no real information going down. And most of the guys don't even have fun. The funniest part was people trying to talk to Vic Fangio. And he, one, couldn't hear anything because it was so loud in there. And two, you could tell he dreaded being there and had no interest in actually talking to people. So that was actually the funniest part for me, was watching Vic Fangio try and navigate a Super Bowl media day when he was like, can I just be in my hotel game planning for the Chiefs offense?
Oh, yeah. And it was great, too. If people have not seen this, the Eagles dropped their, they asked several questions, the Q&A with Vic Fangio. So that's actually better because he's forced to answer those. But you're right, Thomas. You sit there and look at it, he's like, I don't need to be here. I don't want to be here. It's just get this thing through as quick as possible. But they're working their way in that direction. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We see all the comments, the likes. We appreciate those. Yes, the YouTube plaque did show up today, so I posted it on Instagram. Kind of crazy. It felt surreal,
How
but then it
about
actually
that?
shows up, and that's maybe one of those extra
Where's it gonna
highlights.
go?
But
Where
that's the
you
next
could,
question.
I
I
think
don't
behind your other shoulder,
the
right?
other this way, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll have
I
to
think
figure
that
out a
way.
way to hang it up or something. I don't know, like a command
Highlight a
strip or
little bit.
maybe so
Easy to do.
something. Yeah, I'll figure it
Very
out.
cool.
But appreciate that. Saw the comments. Yes, thank you. Let me put this here on the screen if I can make sure I get the right setting. There we go. We'll just start here. We could go all over the place, of course, but I got a couple comments on the last show that I dropped a couple hours ago, and then a few on the chat to start. Not any major concerns, I don't think, but Ian Rappaport, you saw others that retweeted, but Ian Rappaport saying Jalen Carter missed his media availability today, which, talking of the players, the coaches, whether
Sure.
they like it or they don't, he missed it because of an illness, at least is what he was told, but they will learn later if he practiced, if so, how much, all that other stuff. So, I wouldn't hate it if it's like a way to get out of the media and just be like, yeah, I'm not feeling so
Right.
great. I'm not
Right.
there. As Ian Rappaport said, we'll get a more solidified injury status updates and all that. But again, it's just Wednesday. So even on a regular type of week, we'd be sitting here going, usually it's a walkthrough at the biggest, or they don't even practice at all. And then it's an estimated report. So
Yeah.
for people that are going like, oh gosh, hey, did you see this? Because I got a few DMs of like, bro, are we okay? It's Wednesday. Like there's plenty of time for JC, even if it's illness. He probably just got some bad gumbo. That's what it was. But, even if it's a legit illness, he's got some time till Sunday. I'm not concerned.
Well, yeah, of course, he has plenty of time. We'll see if he misses Thursday's practice. Then how sick is he in reality? This is another reason why the NFL Media Day on Monday night, when there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people crowding around you, trying to ask questions, throwing you cookies, making you try and eat things. It's like not everyone there is 100% healthy. Surely somebody showed up with the flu, So another reason why it's so stupid. But yes, he should be fine. And the good news is, really, Josh, in terms of all the injuries that are trending towards being the major question marks going into Sunday, they all look good. BG has basically said as of today, he for sure is playing. It also will be his final game, which we can talk about. Landon Dickerson said he's going to play. Cam Jurgens said he's going to play. Kenny Gainwell is not cleared yet from concussion protocol, but will be. That's almost a guarantee. They're going to be 100% healthy. I mean, every single starter entering this season is going to play except for Nakobe Dean in this football game, which is pretty crazy to think. Both teams are healthy. There's no real concerns for the Chiefs either, but all the question marks of the past 2 weeks really have been geared around the offensive line and the health of Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson, and the flip side, the defensive line and Brandon Graham. They're all good to go, Josh. As close to 100% as they can be.
We will absolutely take that, yeah. Because we said it a number of times throughout this earlier season. I was like, well, you dealt with some injuries going into it, but Chiefs, like you also, they've gotten healthy. Rashee Rice is not there, of course, with his injury earlier in the season. Same thing for Nakobe Dean. But like you mentioned, there's, if you want as little as, because there's all sorts of like national and media speculations, like, oh, if the Eagles win, Jalen Hurts, this, Jalen Hurts that, he's not going to get credit, all this other stuff, because he gets the criticism like crazy. At least you go into this and say, all right, hey, both teams as just about as healthy as you possibly could want. So it's positives from both sides. Go out there, compete. And I mean, I'll tell you, Thomas, like, we're obviously somewhat biased, but like, hide the logos and everything. We're just a little bit biased, but still, the more that you look at this thing, am I crazy? And again, I'm just maybe preaching to the choir here, but am I crazy to think that like the Eagles match up beautifully for what the Chiefs try to do or will try to do? It feels like there's a little bit of a mismatch there.
It sure seems that way. I mean, straight roster, right? You take the quarterbacks out of consideration because Patrick Mahomes is as great as they come. And straight roster, Philadelphia beats them in nearly every single category. I'm trying to think of one position group you'd rather have the Chiefs players at. I can't really think of one except for the quarterback, which obviously Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback
maybe
since Tom Brady. I guess kicker for sure, probably kicker. Still, though, it's the Chiefs. And Andy Reid having 2 weeks is nothing to go ahead and write home about. And Steve Spagnuolo has locked in on something that they're going to try to figure out to stop Saquon Barkley. Now, whether it's successful or not, we've seen, 18, 19 other teams at this point be unsuccessful. Play people twice, though, so more like 15 other teams. But still, it's going to be interesting. I think the early parts of this football game are going to tell us a lot, right? How well is the Eagles defense prepared to slow down Patrick Mahomes? Can they get to Patrick Mahomes and actually sack him? Because if they do, I mean, the blueprint is there, right? We talk about the Chiefs winning all these Super Bowls in the course of Patrick Mahomes' career. They have lost one. Back in 2021, Mahomes was a lot younger, but that was Brady and the Bucks, and they got to Mahomes a ton. They did not allow anyone to run the football from the Chiefs side, and they ran the football with Leonard Fournette for 155 yards. And so that's the blueprint. Run Saquon, get over 100 yards for him, get Patrick Mahomes on the ground, and Philadelphia should win pretty comfortably and have a nice lead in the fourth quarter. That way, no shenanigans that people like to talk about, whether true or not, can actually come true. So I think it is interesting, though, Josh. Chiefs have not played Saquon Barkley. Like the Chiefs have not played against Saquon Barkley in his professional career. Now, there might be one or two players who's come over in free agency, I don't know the exact number, that have played against Saquon, but it's virtually no one on that roster has seen what Saquon is capable, let alone Saquon Barkley behind this offensive line. My big concern for the Commanders and the Rams in the postseason was, okay, they've seen Saquon before. How are they going to adjust the second and third time that they play him? Didn't turn out to matter, but the Chiefs haven't seen him. And so I think it's going to be a massive upside. When you actually play against Barkley, it's completely different than just game planning against him for the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a level of difference when you see him in person, let alone just on the football field, but just see him in person. It's kind of like, okay, well, this dude's a little bit different than what you just as advertised on TV, but like more so. And so, you take that combined with the fact that the Chiefs running game, that I think is a bigger point than some people might realize, because it's like, well, hey, just shut down Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. For one, that's easier said than done, but also it doesn't necessarily come down to that. I think it's more so make them one-dimensional. Just make sure that running game cannot offset a little bit. If they're going to throw, 40 times in the game, then you live with that. You just accept the fact that, say, you cannot run the football on us. And especially if the Eagles stay in nickel. Like, that's the big thing for me, because the Eagles love to play nickel, obviously. So, I mean, Cooper DeJean, the big mismatch there. But the Chiefs like to use a ton of two tight end personnel. And so when you have that sometimes mismatch, you go, well, can they run the football better on it? But so far we've seen, and, the Chiefs maybe hopefully get proven wrong on this, but you can't really run when Cooper DeJean's there, because he's a hybrid type of linebacker. You move him into the box, he can help stop the run. When he's in pass protection or pass coverage, maybe it's against Travis Kelce, maybe it's against another receiver, but the versatility that he has is a night and day difference maker. So again, I think you make them one-dimensional there, and that's what the pass rush can pin their ears back. The field is going to be night and day better. I mean, how many times we get in questions of like, hey, what about the field? What about? It's not going to be grass, so that's a benefit in itself. Like this squad, we played the highlight to start this show here of Dallas Goedert and the big catch that he had in New Orleans. It's a little bit ironic that probably the best performance, at least in terms of like yards and points, from Vic Fangio's defense was against New Orleans in this same dome. So, on turf with this squad, good footing, I'll take my chances. A lot better than Arizona 2 years ago.
Well, and Philadelphia's 5-0, I think, this season inside in domes on synthetic turf. And it's like, okay, well, this really is what a Super Bowl is supposed to be. 2 years ago, the turf wasn't great for either side, and that's always the excuse Chiefs fans make, and that's totally fair. You go back and watch the Chris Jones film from that Super Bowl, and he did virtually nothing, whether it was the Eagle O-line blocking him well, or he too, like Hassan Reddick and the rest of the guys, couldn't get off the football and actually go get the quarterback. You want as neutral of a playing field as humanly possible, and Philadelphia is going to get that this time around. And their defensive line, they're dominating right now, Josh. I mean, they're playing such good football, and I really do wonder what the Chiefs' plan is for Jalen Carter. And if they really want to double him, then Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, potentially going into his final game as the Philadelphia Eagle, because he will get a massive contract somewhere else. Same for Milton Williams, honestly. Nolan Smith, Jalen Hunt. Can one of them be the guys to get after Patrick Mahomes and make his life hell all game long? Because we've seen, Josh, if Philadelphia gets off to any sort of lead this season, I don't know the exact number, but they're dramatically favored to win a game if they get a 7-point lead early, a 10-point lead early, a 14-point lead early. If this thing's 20-7 at halftime, you got to feel really good about Philadelphia's chances, just because they have those edge rushers and Saquon Barkley in the fourth quarter, even with Patrick Mahomes being on the other side of the football field.
Yeah, it's let's just say if you get to the same type of situation, like if we're at halftime, and let's just, hypothetical here, because that's where we're at, but if it's 24-14, if it's the same score as what it was 2 years ago, it is a drastic difference, because in that Super Bowl, Miles Sanders could not do anything. Your running game could not do anything. Jalen Hurts every once in a while, but it was more so of a scramble and him trying to take off and gain some yards. You didn't have a full-blown, like, all right, hey, you know what? We need to milk some clock. We need to run the football. We need to take a little bit longer of a drive here.
Yeah.
You didn't have it. And so, yeah, you get a 10-point lead. I mean, heck, take that at halftime. I get it. I know. Patrick Mahomes, the stats are ridiculous. It's crazy in the fourth quarter, comebacks and all that. But it's just a little bit different having Saquon Barkley with this offensive line. And by the way, I'll get to the Super Chat here in a second. We do also, as much as we will give some praise, we'll give some criticism. How about Nick Sirianni? He deserves some credit for the Mekhi Becton story or status. Whether it was full blown him, he kind of walked it back.
Yeah.
Well, it was a joint effort, but hey, Jeff Stoutland says that was Nick Sirianni's idea first. Then he said, "Let's go with it." But I give Sirianni some credit. That's pretty good.
Sirianni's right up there with Jalen Hurts in terms of completely being able to shut down any sort of negative narrative on him for a pretty long time. Now, obviously, Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl and did get fired a couple of years later, but he still had a little bit of padding in between winning that Super Bowl. And of course, the quarterback thing all, fell into oblivion. It's a story for another day. But if Jalen Hurts wins the Super Bowl, Josh, then all the conversation that we hear on and off from the media this season, the past season, the season before, can he play? Can he not play? It should die. Doesn't mean it will die, but it should die a lot more than where it's currently at, right? I mean, it's like 60% now, should come down to like 20%. Maybe if he has 5 straight bad games, you bring it back up, but whatever. Same goes for Nick Sirianni. Sirianni can become an NFL head coach who in his first 4 seasons has been to 2 Super Bowls and won one. I mean, that is his extremely rare class. He has an incredible win-loss percentage, and despite the goofiness, despite the perception of a vanilla offense, that all goes to the wayside for a very long time if Nick Sirianni wins the Super Bowl. I mean, just the potential this football team has to not only win this weekend, but then reload in the offseason, which we dive right into on our channels as soon as the season ends, and gear up for another big run. They are built to win this game and win the next couple of, deep playoff runs that they potentially could have over the next couple of years. And Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts can further solidify that legacy and their ability to do that if they win it on Sunday.
There's a reason that Dallas wants to be like Philly, and they make those comments. You got to be the best, you got to beat the best.
True.
They can't really even get to the playoffs or certainly win those games to get further. But, they want to copy it. They just can't quite do it like Howie does and team building. I do remember whenever we made the Super Bowl back in 22, whenever it was the whole comment of, the Eagles, they sold out, to win or 20, like they're only, 1 year, they're going to have this big downfall because they have all these guys that are going to be gone. You're not going to be able to sign everyone, all this other stuff, right? Because Dallas and others, but Dallas in particular, were saying that was going to be the case. And you're sitting there going like, well, not necessarily, because we have Howie Roseman as a GM and not Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
There'll be a difference. Whereas if you have Jerry Jones, who does not know how to manipulate the cap and take advantage, sure. But the thing that I love is you take a look at this team, and the youngest defense in the NFL, gotten better throughout the season, set up for success, as you mentioned, an opportunity in the draft and in free agency. You could take care of business with some of your guys like a Zack Baun, like a Mekhi Becton, if you sign those guys back. And you have Jalen, you have A.J. Brown, you have Smitty, you have guys locked up for the future as well. It's a night and day difference from what some teams go, well, they sold out just to try to win it this one time. As you mentioned, though, the window is a lot bigger than just saying, okay, it's this year. So even with that being said, though, take advantage, get this one done, kind of slow up. I don't know if it completely does, but at least slow up this three-peat, this dynasty of Kansas City, and then let's try to make more of a run there. But first one's first. Fanny, we do appreciate the 2, though. Says Nolan Smith equals 2 sacks. Baun equals 2 turnovers. Game, set, match.
That would do it. That would probably indicate a pretty big Eagles win. I am very curious how Fangio decides to play Kelce, because he's seen Travis Kelce a lot throughout his career, especially in Denver. And you get 2 weeks, and he has the personnel to do it. Do you want C.J. Gardner-Johnson to be kind of the main guy? Do you want Baun to run around there on him? Do you let Oren Burks and Baun double team? Do they throw a lot of double teams to Travis Kelce? Does Cooper DeJean get into the mix? That's really the matchup, right? Because as you look at the Chiefs' offense, Pacheco's a very good runner. Pacheco's not a 130-yard, carry sort of guy. And against the Eagle defensive line, it's probably not going to be a massive Pacheco game unless he breaks a 70-yarder and then gets an extra, 45 the rest of the way. Worthy's a problem, but you wonder how they're going to utilize Worthy and get him in the open space, right? I think Worthy is probably the other big factor. DeAndre Hopkins is very much just a possession receiver. He's not going to go up and, get a football where he beats Quinyon Mitchell on a go route. It really is Kelce. It's Kelce and then Mahomes running around. And if they can find a way to stop those 2 things, that's probably all she wrote. But that's the problem, is that teams they've done a good job slowing down Mahomes and Kelce at times, but they seem to lose by 3 points, 1 point, 5 points, 7 points. They're all 1-score games, and they're low-scoring games against the Chiefs offense. So slow them down, but if the Eagles offense on the other side can just get enough points to pull ahead, it's a wrap, and it feels like it could be a wrap earlier than we think. All of us Eagle fans are extremely confident. I've not talked to an Eagle fan who's like, yeah, I'm kind of scared. I think we might lose by 10. I think there's no Eagle fan out there saying we would lose by double digits. If we lose, it's by 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, and if we win, it's by 10 plus.
I've heard the exact same thing because you just
Yeah,
look at this team and there is the Andy Reid factor, there is the Patrick Mahomes. You give some extra time and prep, but
sure.
like we were talking about earlier, that all the positional breakdowns. Hey, Mahomes is great, absolutely, no one's doubting that. Andy Reid is great, no one's doubting that. But like, there's not a dominant receiver. You go through and you just said DeAndre Hopkins. You're not really Juju Smith-Schuster. There's not
Yeah,
there's Travis Kelce, yes, but it's kind of like, okay, he's not the same of what he once was. He can beat you if you let him get open, but we have a lot of guys that are playmakers, and I think the speed plays a huge factor too with the turf, as we mentioned. I mean, that naturally speeds up teams, but I think that when you're talking about a bend but don't break and limit the yardage, the
yeah,
only thing, I mean, to me, the only thing that really helps amplify Kansas City and they're able to take advantage is if there's a lot of missed tackles. But we haven't seen too many of that. We saw a little bit in the
yeah.
Green Bay game early. You're kind of going like, maybe you got to take to kind of clean this up. And then since then, they've been rock solid. I mean, throughout the playoffs, most of the regular season they were. So it's like they play with speed as it is. If they make tackles, I don't know how. And then again, it goes to the offensive side of the football, but I think that this team has continued to gain momentum. What Jalen did against Washington, I know it was Washington. It's not Kansas City, but still he gains the confidence there too of throwing the football. The offensive play calling you saw from Kellen Moore, I get it. I feel like that there's part of me that I'm like, 24-20 was earlier in this week, and that's where I was leaning for the score. But the more that we go on, the more that I look into it, I'm like, I just don't know. I feel like it could be a 10-point spread or more. It just feels that way.
We'll see. Turnovers obviously are going to be a big factor early on. You saw in the Green Bay Packer game, for instance, where Philadelphia was really a better team all game, but Jalen throws that early pick. They have a very slow start and get behind the sticks, and you're like, okay, can they speed things up? And obviously they've done that multiple times. But if you can play clean football and do really what they did the entire first half, minus the Jalen fumble in Super Bowl 57, they went right down the field on that opening drive, converted a couple of third downs, and eventually punched it in at the goal line. You do the exact same thing. Put that defense out there and let these guys go eat. It's just so hard to underestimate or to realize just how good Jalen Carter can be in this football game. Jalen Carter can really be the difference maker and giving that internal up the gut pressure on Patrick Mahomes early and often, and hopefully make him run for his life, because we see Mahomes do that and make a lot of very clutch plays, but make him run for his life and then get him on the ground, push him out of bounds, make him throw incomplete passes. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I'm not nervous yet, which is weird. I thought I would be nervous by now, but I think the 2 weeks have kind of drug on for so long that I'm sure Sunday I'll be nervous. But right now, I mean, it just feels like a typical week.
I agree. It does. It's kind of weird. But we will be streaming. Weird. Also getting some comments about that. We will be streaming for the Super Bowl on Sunday. We'll go live earlier, like an hour before. So shout out to Underdog. Scan the QR code, use code Philly Special, get up to $1,000 in bonus cash for the big game. We'll have our picks and plays and everything else there as well.
Sure.
So, kind of a full pregame show, everything else to get you caught up if you haven't missed it and just hanging out. And then, obviously the big game streaming itself. So a few comments asking, we're not going to get into the draft yet. We do cover that, but it's too early. Like, who's our favorite pick or whatever. We're not there yet. We will get into it. It'll be probably a couple months because, we get done with this. Hopefully it's a win, kind of celebrate a little bit, go into free agency. There'll be some draft breakdowns, but we got free agency to take care of. Damon's with a 5. Appreciate that. 5 bombs says, what's up, guys? Go Birds. Eagles fan living in St. Louis with these Chiefs fans. Can't wait to put belt to ass and shut these suckers up. There we go.
Yeah, you're kind of in enemy territory up there, huh? That is going to be a lot of red. You wonder what a Chiefs fan feels like going into this game where, they've been here for 3 straight years. And I guess the history side of it, the three-peat side of it, you saw that Pat Riley gave some permission for the NFL to sell three-peat stuff for the Kansas City Chiefs, which hopefully never happens. But I wonder what they feel like, because an Eagle fan, anybody else, it's crazy, because normally in an NFL season, and even in Eagle seasons over the course of my lifetime, most end with a playoff berth, because Philadelphia's been in the playoffs more than anybody else besides the Patriots since 2000, 2001. So you don't normally get to the playoffs, but the playoffs can end the first week of January, the second week of January, the third week of January. Very rarely do you have a meaningful game in February in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles, even though we've been to the Super Bowl 4 times in my lifetime. But it's just fun to be here. It's fun to have this. It's definitely fun to have this, and I just don't want that feeling that I had after Super Bowl 57. You know,
I
you
know.
almost forget what it was like after the 2017 Super Bowl because it was 7 years ago now. You do very much remember what that loss felt like, and it was devastating watching Philadelphia lose that one.
It was, yeah. Don't, it was one of those where I can remember exactly where I was at. I'm sure everybody can. I've not rewatched the game start to finish since that point. I've barely even watched some clips, so I know some people have, others can't. Totally understandable. But yeah, like get this one. This time, I mean, you notch it in the belt of your franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and there's still going to be haters. Like, I don't care what
Sure.
Jalen can go out there and have an exact same game that he did back in Super Bowl 57, minus the fumble. Even he could have that good of a game, and you will still have critics going, "Well, he's not really like a top 3. We might give him a top 5, maybe, but he's definitely not a top 3 quarterback in the league." And that's just how they will. But at least then you would say, okay, hey, he's got his Super Bowl. There's something with that confidence factor saying, hey, we've been there. We know what it takes to win.
Yep.
You kind of to move yourself up in the ranks there. Not only that side, but then the defense, because again, we talk about how young they are, but how much does it mean for the psyche of that squad to go, like, look at what we did. Look at what we were able to accomplish. You can celebrate it for a little bit, but then you come back the following year and you say, hey, we got the group, we got the guys to run this thing back. So I think it's obviously bigger ramifications. We'll figure out the coordinator situation, if Kellen Moore's going, staying, all that. It feels like it's leaning towards him leaving, but
it's going to happen. Sadly.
You never know officially until we get the news, but then we'll figure out who that's going to be. We'd still all take a Super Bowl, of course. CJ with a 5 bomb, though. Appreciate that. Says, I feel like the linebackers for both teams are an X factor in this game. Baun for us and Bolton for the Chiefs.
That's true. I mean, that when we were talking at the very beginning, it's like, which position group would you, from the Chiefs, take over the Eagles? I would still take the Eagle linebacker group because Zack Baun's going to be, or should be, Defensive Player of the Year. But the Chiefs and Nick Bolton have a very good linebacking core, and he was a massive factor. Nick Bolton's been a factor in almost every single one of the Chiefs' playoff wins. So, that's very fair. This feels like Baun's true coming out party to the world in terms of being the best linebacker in football. I think there's still some fans out there that don't fully, know who he is, have watched a lot of his games, whether you're an AFC fan, haven't watched a lot of NFC games or vice versa. But this is where he kind of announces himself to the rest of the league, and then you hope and pray how he can afford him, which I've been told by people apparently in the know that he is going to re-sign, that he feels I think the words
I've heard the same thing
that these people said was, in debt to Vic Fangio for kind of revitalizing his career. So he's going to give kind of a team-friendly discount to the Philadelphia Eagles. But I've seen rumors that the Raiders with Tom Brady could be one of the top teams to throw a bunch of money at Zack Baun. I do think Baun has a loyalty factor to Philadelphia, and especially since Vic Fangio's staying. Obviously, he's going to be DC next year. They're probably going to be able to re-sign Zack Baun. That's what I have heard. And it's not like I get a lot of inside information, but that's what I've heard so far.
Yes. We might actually have the same individual. I'm not sure, but I've
probably
heard similar things along those lines. So, we can neither confirm nor deny, but it does sound like it's moving in the right direction there. So, of course, we will obviously go live for that breaking news after the Super Bowl and everything else, if and when that does take place. But, it just feels like it's one thing for a TJ Edwards to miss on that and to move on and say, yeah, well, maybe you could have gotten him for a whole lot cheaper. But it's a different thing when you have an all-pro linebacker that you go, well, we'll just kind of let him walk. Like, there's just no way in my mind that Howie's just even if he does not value the linebacker, there's just no way that you say that with this Vic Fangio scheme, because Fangio, he'll be pounding the table as well, saying that's my guy. Like that is who we turned into from an edge rusher that Howie thought to Fangio going, no, I think he could play inside linebacker. So I think that we'll get him, but we shall see. Anthony DeBona, what's up, man? He's in the chat.
Oh, there he is.
Says Thomas Schefter with you breaking the news there.
Yeah, right.
A little insider information. So there you go.
Now, we very rarely break news. There are plenty of people on Twitter who regurgitate news and write it up as their own, as Anthony is one of the people leading the charge against that, because Anthony is a true journalist and a true reporter covering the Philadelphia Eagles. But no, I am by no means breaking anything. But people, message me and tell me things, and whether you believe them or not is up to you. But that is what I have heard, and at least it makes sense. So,
yes,
we'll see.
We've had some information shared with us at times, even actually going all the way back to Saquon, that the Eagles were going to sign Saquon. And, it was
Yeah.
just one source. So that's the hard part, is like, you don't know necessarily, do you run with it? I was like, I'm still in denial. It
Yeah.
happened. So yeah, there's other things out there, but
Journalism, two sources. We learned
we'll
that at
see.
Baylor, right?
We'll
Two
see.
sources. Got to have
Yes,
two.
yes,
So,
please.
oh,
How many
man.
people don't stick to that, right? Or just take it
All
from
of them.
somebody else? We just
Yeah.
beware of Twitter and all the reports there, because people were saying that the Eagles were taking a bus to New Orleans. I got that for a little bit.
I did
And I
see
was like,
that. Yes.
they're not doing. They're not taking a bus.
Doing that.
Somebody ran with it and then
Not
starts to
doing that.
report it as such. And then you like an hour after the bus video dropped from the Eagles social team, they're like, "We've landed in New Orleans." Okay, well, that's
wait a
pretty
second.
obvious. Yeah, it didn't take place. Anthony, well, that we appreciate this. That's why you two are the best around. We appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
I don't know.
Thanks, Anthony.
You're the best. Let's see. Still, Grandpa, the parade. Oh, well, I guess as far as the timing of that, people were asking, what about the parade? Parade should be Wednesday or Thursday if the Eagles were to win.
Let's just win first. Let's just win first. Okay, let's just win first. I know we're all so
don't
confident.
Get ahead of ourselves.
We just spent the first 30 minutes saying, well, Philadelphia should win. They can win by double digits. They're much better. But we still can't get ahead of ourselves here, right? This is the Chiefs.
You're right.
Taylor Swift is going to be in the building, right? The NFL refs exist out there. So just be a little careful there. Just be a little careful there.
What's the over-under on how many times we have to see Taylor Swift?
Probably
on the
not
broadcast?
that much.
You
Probably
think?
not that much.
Okay.
I bet it'll
so.
be less. I bet it'll be like 3 or 4 times. Obviously, if Kelsey catches a touchdown, then they'll flash to her. But, hopefully he doesn't. And so it'll be, once in the beginning, there she is. Once when Kelsey makes a catch, and then that's virtually it. So hopefully that's the case.
I am hopeful. There's part of me that goes, they're going to still build it up because, you have a lot of casuals that watch the Super Bowl, whether it's the halftime show or
a lot of
other
casuals.
things. And if we're going to see a lot of Taylor Swift, it wouldn't be surprising, but I hope you're right. I really do. CJ with the 2 more. Appreciate that. Says, do y'all think BG and Slay retire with a win on Sunday?
BG said he would, so BG is officially retiring after this game. He has said as much, and so Slay has said he doesn't want to retire. Slay has said that he wants to play again next year, but not a full season was kind of the words that I saw, and so it's like, okay, does that mean he signs a 1-year deal somewhere else? My guess is Slay will try and go get one more little 2-year decent money deal to finish out his career somewhere else. I think Philadelphia really likes Keely Ringo, and I think they're going to see what Isaiah Rodgers is going to command in free agency, right? What is going to be the market for Isaiah Rodgers? Because I think they'd like to keep him and still have Ringo kind of as that backup cornerback for maybe 1 more year, maybe offer Isaiah Rodgers a 2 or 3 year deal. But if another team is cornerback needy and they truly believe that Zay can be a starter in this league, as I think he's proven this year, and I would both agree, then they're probably going to lose Isaiah Rodgers. It'll be Quinion and Keely Ringo, and then they would most likely draft a cornerback at some time later on in the NFL draft. Not early on, but sometime later on to continue to have that depth because we saw how important it was this year. So BG's will retire. That's been confirmed. Saleh is likely not going to, but he probably won't be an Eagle. And I think that's it. And then, Josh Sweat, it will be Josh Sweat's final game as an Eagle. It will definitely be Milton Williams' final game as an Eagle. And then Zack Baun is kind of the one up in the air, but most of us assume it'll be Zack Baun coming back to Philadelphia. So I think I have that right.
Sweaty and
probably Kenny Gainwell's last game too.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe, yeah, because Will. Sweaty and Milt are going to get big contracts. They are going to get some big time money.
Contracts.
So good for them. Good for them. Sure. I will say this is not official. I can't say anything confirmed on this. There is, speaking of a feeling of loyalty, with Zay, that'd be the only thing with Philly, right? Because they took the chance on signing him, bringing him there, and on all that. So I'm going to be interested, as we all will be. Just keep an eye on how much that potential contract offer or what the Eagles could see about. But to bring him back to the league, give him a chance, an opportunity. Maybe if he were to be re-signed, get a chance to start too with this defense and having gone to the Super Bowl. I don't know. There's a chance. We'll just say that.
Sounds good to me.
We'll take it if we can get it. Michael with a 10 bomb. Let's go, man. Says, no matter what, when we win, Jalen critics will credit our defense and still hate on Hurts. Love to see Hurts carve Spags and Vic get his first win against Mahomes and crew.
I do think if Hurts has a big game, if Hurts has 4 total touchdowns and throws for over 200 yards, then it'd be a lot harder to kind of give the Eagle defense the actual credit for the win, although I'm sure that they would be a big part of a win like that. But I am going for Vic here too, right? Vic is an all-ball kind of guy. And anytime you see an interview with Vic Fangio, you fully grasp that. And you just realize he loves the game. He grew up a Philadelphia sports fan, so winning in Philadelphia would be like the ultimate, icing on the cake. And he has been a massive reason why Philadelphia turned things around this year, Josh, because the defense last year had no shot of actually going to the Super Bowl when it was all said and done.
Yeah.
There was no way they were going to win 3 games, one of which was on the road, or multiple were going to be on the road, all of them probably on the road, and then go to Super Bowl and then, beat the Chiefs and then win. And even going back to the Jonathan Gannon defense, that was much better. We've talked a lot about how the linebackers were not as good as this year, and the secondary was nowhere near as close, and they gave up all these points, and it was like they had no answer. If anybody can figure out Mahomes in the Super Bowl, the first one to do it was Todd Bowles. Feels like another defensive-minded, kind of older, all-ball, no-nonsense kind of coordinator can get it done in Vic Fangio.
I hope so. I mean, he's better than 8-0. Let's just say that. He's better than, or 0-8 in that case, because people keep continuing. I see a number of those.
I know, it's so dumb,
I know
though.
that, shout out to Cole, because he's got good content for How About the Sheep, but the number of times that I've heard that stat or something referenced in the fact that, Mahomes could cook against Fangio. It's not exactly apples to apples, because Fangio did not have anywhere close to the shell of an offense that the Eagles do here. And as we've seen, I mean, the complementary football is everything. Like, you could have a really good defense, but if your defense has to go out there and play 80 plays in a game, well, you can forget about it. So, I get it. Yes, it's not a good record at all against Mahomes, but I think that it's a little bit overplayed, as a lot of stats are, but that's definitely one where I go into it, and it doesn't – I mean, I'll be honest, I don't get concerned – really at like my anxiety level, nervousness, whatever, does not really creep up at all. Even whatever I'm like, oh, hey, Fangio hasn't beaten Mahomes. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, sure. There's not a lot of teams, period, that have beat Mahomes, but like that doesn't bother me. This is a different defense and a different offense for what Fangio is working with. Really quickly, I'm going to get to the super chat. I was going to point out, though, that Anthony DeBona himself said, I might sound crazy, but think that Zack Baun is the only must re-sign player for the Eagles. They essentially already have replacements in-house for many of the others. My one response to that, Anthony, as he's still here, I'm curious, does that include offense or is that just defense? Because I'm curious about Mekhi Becton. We'll see what he says on that one.
Yeah, it does feel like Becton and Baun would. I think Becton would definitely come back to Philadelphia. Becton knows what it's like outside of Jeff Stoutland's kind of orbit, and it's not fun out there. And if a team wants to convert him back to a tackle because he's too big to be a guard or whatever, I would agree. I'm looking at their free agent list right now. Yeah, there's no one else on this list that is a must re-sign. I do think Philadelphia will sign some of the lesser name guys. Oren Burks, I would definitely give a contract extension to because he's proven in the postseason he can definitely play, and we have no idea where Nakobe Dean is going to be at starting off next year, and so he probably wants to be might be your starting linebacker early. I do think like a Ben Van Sumeren, because they like the whole linebacker special teams side of things, is going to be another guy that they go ahead and re-sign for cheap. But everybody else here is virtually fine with leaving except for Becton and Baun, I would say.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. We'll see if Anthony is still here and he
It's a small list, though, right? Most Super Bowl teams have a ton of big-name players. Philadelphia has 3 or 4, and like Anthony said, they have replacement at edge. They have replacements at defensive tackle and stuff.
Okay, he did respond. He said, yes, I'm the leader of the Tyler Steen fan club. I think with Jurgens' contract coming up, they need to be a bit careful contract-wise, but if they view Becton as a right tackle, that changes things.
Okay. For the Lane Johnson future replacement. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, there's a possibility there. It's not that I don't buy into Steen. I think it's just as much as Mekhi Becton has done this year, that it's like you want to maximize your value. I think, as you said, Thomas, I feel like you could get a little bit of a deal. I don't know to what extent, because there are teams that I'm sure would be like, hey, Mekhi Becton's a better guard than we even thought was possible, right? So maybe someone floats in there and tries to offer it, but I feel like there's that loyalty with Jeff Stoutland and the others. So we'll see. The beauty of it, again, that it makes it is the fact that you go into free agency not having too many holes. You say, okay, we take care of a couple of our guys, and now you go out and see what do we have left cap-wise. Can we make 1 or 2 key acquisitions, or you just go into the draft? And you know what? That's not the worst place to be in, as we've seen the Eagles hit on several draft picks recently. So, Shady Luke, appreciate you waiting. Got the 5 here. Thanks for that. Said, I think it's wild how much people think that the Chiefs will easily be able to stop Saquon. Easier said than done.
I do too. Yeah, I talked about this on my show on Monday, that there's this whole, the Chiefs are very good against the run, and there hasn't been a lot of people to run all over them. Well, it's not necessarily true. 4 teams have gone over $130 most recently. The Christmas Day game, was that Wednesday or or Friday, or was it
Yeah,
Wednesday or
at the
Thursday? It was
Wednesday game, I
Wednesday,
think.
right?
Yeah.
The Steelers ran for like 200 plus yards. I mean, they had a really good day on the ground. So teams have done it. And, I just don't think they've played anybody like Saquon Barkley. And Buffalo got away from James Cook. James Cook was having a very good season. They didn't really use him that much in the NFC title game. Buffalo seems to always kind of get away from, whatever running back they have when they play Kansas City in the postseason because it's all on Josh Allen. They're not going to get away from Saquon Barkley. And the offensive line is too good for them to even consider going away from Saquon Barkley because they will create running lanes and they will create holes. And the way the Eagle offense is built right now, even if you want to load the box, like let's say you want to put 8 in the box, you're manning up A.J. Brown. And even if you think Trent McDuffie can man up A.J. Brown, well, then you're manning up Devontae Smith, who historically, you want to talk about the chief killer, it's been Devontae Smith. He has been an absolute monster. I was watching Super Bowl 57, the full replay a couple of days ago, and every single pass is Smitty or Goddard, right? I mean, very little was to A.J. except for that deep ball over the top for the touchdown and a couple of others underneath. It was all Smitty and Goddard. And so it really is pick your poison. And you can see how Howie Roseman, in his infinite wisdom, has built this football team, right? Let's make an offensive line that nobody can stand up against and run the football, with a running back that no one can stop even with a bad offensive line, but also have a number one receiver on the outside if you want to stop the run, but also have another number one receiver if you want to stop that other number one receiver, but also have a really good tight end if you want to stop both receivers, and then have Jalen's ability to run as well, which no one's talking about, by the way, Josh. 2 games ago, it was like, can he move on that knee? Last week, or 2 weeks ago, he ran very well at times.
Mm-hmm.
The knee should be even better than it was in the NFC title game, and he could run all over the place on Sunday.
Yeah, Jalen looked fantastic. You're right, because we're both sitting there at the game, or before, saying like, man, I don't know, because we saw the way that they limited the play calling in the Rams games late, after he had that injury. So there's a question of, is he going to be able to do that? But didn't look like it was an issue, thankfully, and I think the extra rest, everything else should prove dividends there. Larry, I'm going to get to your super chat here in just a second. I was going to mention MG Raps real quick just because it's still on the Saquon. So, and then I'll get to yours.
Yeah.
MG with the 10, appreciate that. Says they hate us because they ain't us. Saquon going Super Saiyan? Super Saiyan?
I think it's Saiyan.
Sane?
It's anime. You and I haven't watched it.
I have not.
Isn't that Goku? I think it's Goku. I'm
Saiyan,
getting ripped for saying that if I get it wrong.
Saiyan?
It's super.
I'm
I think it's
butchering
super.
it. I know. It's probably is. Yeah. Sorry.
I know what it is.
We've
They're
outed
gonna rip us in
ourselves,
the
but
chat
thank
for
you.
this.
Yeah.
We're not old either.
I'll say
I'm only
go
28.
Birds,
I still
baby.
know how to say it. Yeah,
I can
right.
end
We're
the
gonna get
last part of
shredded in
that.
the chat for that one.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Thanks.
Anyway.
Moving on. No, I'll stick with this. Okay, we do appreciate
Okay.
it. Thank you. We're
Okay.
just, everybody's different, so it's not everyone's cup of tea. But agree with you about Saquon. I will say the Chiefs, and Anthony brought this up a second ago as well. The fact that Joe Mixon and James Cook, as you were talking about, but had a lot more yards per carry in those games against the Chiefs than they did regular season wise, because there's so many more opportunities. The one thing that I'm curious to see, like, I don't really question that Saquon's going to end up having a pretty good yards per carry. I think that it's you stick with Saquon, you run the ball 20 times, he's going to have over 100 yards, you're good there. My biggest question is, can the Eagles still get that explosive play? Can they get the 30, the 40, the 50-yard run from Saquon, or is it just this consecutive 5 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, and just march down the field that way? Either one is fine, but I'm just curious because a lot of times this team relies on that big play, or not necessarily relies on it, but capitalize on a big play, and that's the one area, if you look at for this Chiefs defense, not just in the running game or the run defense or the pass defense, both sides, they don't give up a whole lot of explosive plays. They'll give up some yards, they'll give up some plays with the running game. Are they more, I guess, balanced or not trying to load the box? Because, I mean, Thomas, every game stream, it feels like we're saying, oh, you got a loaded box here. Maybe there goes Saquon. There, 78 yards.
Yeah.
So do the Chiefs do that, or do they stick it back, kind of stay back further and say, well, we're going to have at least multiple layers to where if Saquon breaks one for 5 or 10 yards, at least it's only a first down instead of there's a house call and you gave up 7 points.
If I was Spagnuolo, I would load the box and I would say Saquon's not getting 100 yards because if he gets 100 yards, Philadelphia's going to win this football game. And so if I was Steve Spagnuolo, I would try and dare Jalen Hurts to beat me. And, of course, the problem is the weapon's on the outside. Can Trent McDuffie shut down A.J. Brown? Maybe. I don't think so, but maybe. But then what's the plan for Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert? That's the real question. And so I do think it's going to be a pick your poison. I would pick to shut down Saquon Barkley, even though we both love Jalen Hurts. But I do think if you were going to decide who you wanted to not beat you, I would not want Saquon to do it. I think they're going to load the box and play a lot of man coverage and just pray. And just pray that Jalen has a bad game on the brightest stage, which we've seen Jalen doesn't do a lot of. especially in the price
kind of
stage.
rise to the occasion a little bit more. That's what Jalen Hurts, and I loved his comment earlier in the press conference. I think today, was saying, do the doubters, was it like, do the doubters fuel you, or do you get extra motivation from that, or something like that? He's like, basically, yeah. He sees it, even though sometimes you're like, I don't really pay attention to the media. He sees it every time, and it's definitely an extra motivation for him. Which, speaking of, Larry Love with a 2, we appreciate that, says Hurts will have 2 goal line touchdowns. Whether we want to call those as tush push, brotherly shove, quarterback sneak, as Jalen refers to it.
Yeah, right. I would definitely bet on that. I was working on just a couple of my underdog picks for this weekend, and the Saquon higher, because I'm gonna have like a billion of them. The Saquon higher or lower is like 113 right now, Josh. By the way, which feels like a massive over or higher, I guess you could say, on that one.
Yeah.
And Jalen's passing touchdowns is 1.5. So
and you can get plus money on the 1.5 too. That's the crazy part.
I'm higher on both of those. Mahomes' rushing yards is I think it's 38.5, higher or lower, and I'm way lower on that. So
yeah,
of course, the one thing that like he did in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I know that's the only thing. People were saying like he averages. I think it's right at that number. He averages that amount in the playoffs, but during the regular season, it's like 20. Here's what I would say: if you think that the Chiefs are going to lose this game, then take Mahomes over on the rushing yards, because the reason that he doesn't hit his over, like 5 times this season, he's been over, and then he does the stupid like drop back 10 yards and kneel it down.
I know.
And you lose the yards. So the benefit here is that if the Chiefs are not going to win, if they're not in victory formation, then you should feel a little bit better about the opportunity for his rushing yards over. So just my 2 cents. I probably jinxed it, so maybe just stay away altogether. But,
right.
Quick question before I get to Damon's other super chat.
Yes.
Do you have a Kenny G play yet, or will you be making a
Not
Kenny
yet.
G?
I'm actually curious. Let's see what the number is, because I'm obviously going to have a play for that one.
The loyal followers know that the Thomas Mott special is something involving Kenny Gainwell, which is typically like a guaranteed lock if we can find a good line for him.
What is the Kenny Gainwell higher or lower? Okay, I only see a couple here. He doesn't have a he has a rush receiving yard at 18.5, and then they don't actually have a number for his total rushing yards. First rushing attempt is higher or lower than 3 yards, so I would go higher on that one.
Interesting.
But they do not have a higher or lower, I think, yet on his total yards. So obviously we will be most likely going with the over or the higher whenever they give it to us.
I was going to say, they'll have something official a little bit closer. So, and we will make sure to update you guys with the official picks, plays, everything that we have on the Super Bowl stream, because we will be, an hour before that. Damon's with a 5 said, speaking of that, the 0-8 bullcrap, can someone please explain that we have a better offense to the ESPN crew? We've been trying to. Everyone watching our videos knows and understands that it's like the breakdowns of realistic viewpoint versus a jaded, only look at things through one lens that they always continue to do with Jalen and the offense and Vic Fangio and the 0-8 record.
Yeah.
But how many times have we said this? It's almost every time that we get on here, we get a question or comment about the national media and everything else. It doesn't sell views. It doesn't get views. They have to say it, because you have to take one stance or the other. And we've seen the flip-flop so many times that's the hard part, is you go on and you listen and watch these talking heads, and you're like, even if it's a good take sometimes, I'm like, does he actually believe that? Like, is that his legit stance, or is that today's agenda? And tomorrow it's going to flip over and be like, well, no, actually, this is not going to be true, because there's so many back and forth that it's just kind of hard to take it, and everything, I guess, should be taken with a grain of salt in that sense. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it was easier to do in the season, right? Because there was a stretch of games where Philadelphia was not playing great on offense and still winning. It's much harder to do after the past 3 weeks in the postseason, where they, win against everyone's favorite. The Green Bay Packers were like the team you didn't want to face in the first round. And then it was like, okay, the Rams are red hot right now. I don't know if the Eagle defense can slow down these Rams. And then it was like, well, the Commanders, this is the best quarterback left in the, NFC. It's going to be real. And then, it's much harder to do it after those 3 weeks. They're still doing it, but it's much harder.
Yeah, that's true. They're slowly proving people wrong, which that would be and will be the best part of the national media reaction to it, because
it will be.
If they say something against it, it's going to look foolish. Either way, it will, but it'll very much so. And if they praise it, then you'll be like, okay, but what were you saying right before this? Who were you picking to win this thing? So, that'll be fun.
Twitter
we
checks
gotta
everybody.
Get there first. It definitely
we
does.
have the notes. We have the notes.
The internet is undefeated. Nathaniel with a 5. Appreciate that. It's his first time commenting and enjoy your videos and shows. Continue the great content. This Super Bowl reminds me of Super Bowl 42. Eagles stopped the cheats stopped the cheat Pete on Sunday. I like that. The cheat Pete. Okay.
He must mean Super Bowl 52, though, right? He doesn't mean Super Bowl 42.
I think it was a typo there. But
any guess on who won Super Bowl 42 10 years prior to Philadelphia? So 2007 Super Bowl off the top of your head, Josh?
Oh, gosh.
I'm thinking, is that the Bears Super Bowl? Is that Bears Colts? Let me see.
Was it there? What was the year that Seattle was? Who did they play?
No. We are both wrong.
Well off.
Both wrong.
What was that?
It's a pretty significant Super Bowl too.
Cardinals?
No. Helmet catch.
Oh, okay. The Giants.
7.
Tyree.
Yeah. Tyree. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
It's funny. You remember your own Super Bowls really well, but it's all the others that are kind of like
all the others. Yeah.
General
it's hard
vicinity,
to name them all in
maybe.
A row. Hard to name them all in a row. Yeah. Because what was the Super Bowl after Super Bowl 42? 43 would have been. Wouldn't that have been the Cardinals and Steelers?
I think.
Let's see. 43 was Cardinals and Steelers. Yes. Okay.
All right. I felt like it was close.
We're in that time frame.
Yeah. We can give you within 5 years, plus or
within
minus.
5.
I don't know if that's a good thing, but somewhere in that area. Shady with a 10 bomb. Let's go. Says, I think people also tend to sleep on the Eagles' defense and how fast and how young they are. It matters big time. I totally agree.
So young.
We talked about this before, right? But the whole comment of the speed that the defense has with the fact they're playing on turf, like it speeds up the defense. And how many times you go back and look at other Super Bowls that we can't name, but the ones that you would go back and think to would be, defense wins championships, but defense flying around, especially if they're not slowed down with the pass rush. It'll help on both sides. We're not saying that because I know that there's other comments I've gotten about, you can't mention the field, because we can mention the field whenever objectively it did impact both teams. But you look at who has the better defense and who has that speed and can rely on it. It's a huge difference maker. And so, I mean, to me, I'm like, as long as the squad doesn't go in there like a deer in headlights and look just totally out of sorts, which I don't feel like they are because Fangio has them so prepared and ready to go, it's a big advantage, and it just doesn't get talked about enough. So I'm with you, Luke.
There you go.
Chris with a 5. Appreciate that also. Says, don't change the game plan on offense and let the D-line eat. I can see Jalen throwing a few touchdowns. Let's go hunting. I like that. A couple touchdowns.
Yep, I agree. I don't think you changed anything. I don't think that you changed anything.
Over 1.5 touchdowns. Remember, that is the play with Underdog. Do it for the big game. Code Philly Special. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Larry Love with 10 more. The 10 bomb. Larry, dropping a big one. Says, you stack the box. Barkley breaks it. You risk the play action. You stop him. Goddard's on the edge. And watch Smitty across the middle. Jalen runs 2. Pick your poison. Death by 1,000 cuts.
There you go. Works for me. You know what people are also missing in the national media, Josh, is how different Kellen Moore's offense looked in the NFC title game. It was pretty unique. They ran a lot of stuff we hadn't seen all season long, and so I think you're going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah, it's and we talked about this, I think, on the recap last week, just because, again, it's different being there in person and you could see it play out down the field, what Jalen's looking at, the routes developing, things like that you can't see on TV. Yeah. And just, I mean, if we can get like 70% of that play calling in this Super Bowl, hopefully it's up to the same level or even beyond that. But if it's like 70%, it'll be drastically different than what we saw most of the season. So, I agree. It's a pick your poison. Make sure that the Chiefs are wrong no matter what they go with. They can have a good play call. Make sure they're wrong. You've got way too many playmakers for that to happen. I see someone's gonna have a big game. The question for me, it's more difficult going on picking, plays or props or whatever, like which guy is going to be the one that, because it's basically, it comes down to what does Kansas City try to emphasize and focus more? Do they say, sure, we're going to load up and stack the box on Saquon? Even if they do, Saquon could break a long run and you could forget about it. But let's say they do. Okay, fine. Then A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Or if they focus and go, we're going to have safety help on A.J., make sure you can't really go that direction too much. Fine. As we were talking about a second ago with Larry, you pick your poison. It could be Goddard, it could be Smitty. Tons of options.
I don't see them going with safety help on AJ. I'd be very surprised if they play a soft zone coverage, make sure no one gets behind you sort of defense, because if that's the case, Barkley's going to rip a 10-yarder, an 8-yarder, a 6-yarder, a 15-yarder, a 20-yarder, a 60-yard. There's just no way. It really feels like you got to sell out to stop this run. And the Commanders did try it in that game. I mean, they had play one was a loaded box that Jalen then, does a little dummy call, checks into the toss to the other side, and then he runs all the way. The problem that teams have, even if they have numbers in a box, Josh, if it's 7 versus 6, that extra defender normally gets his legs broken by Jalen Hurts or by Saquon Barkley or picks the wrong hole, and Saquon bounces it out. And because Philly's so good up front, they're man on man and they're beating everybody. So I think they're going to load the box and just pray that Jalen doesn't beat him with their arm and just try to do everything they can to stop Saquon Barkley.
I'm going to be interested to see. Right now, I actually am. I kind of feel like they're going to early on, and hopefully this proves them wrong and we can take advantage of it. I kind of feel like early on they're going to say, let's just see. Let's see how good that running game is. I think they might go a little bit less and kind of be a neutral type of alignment. And then if and when they start to see, this running game is going to be dominant, then they shift. But we'll see. It's the chess match that's waiting to play out. Fanny with a 2 says, what about Sidney Brown in the future? That's another great point. We haven't talked about Sidney Brown too much. He's been a huge difference maker in special teams and just his physicality, his athleticism, but you forget about him. Honestly, you forget about him sometimes of his ability in the future, whether that means to play in some sort of hybrid alignment, if that was a safety, because initially when he was drafted, the thought, was, well, maybe he's going to end up being in the safety role. But there's a lot of potential. You just say that. You don't necessarily know where that's going to fit, but there's for sure some sort of plan I've got to imagine for Sidney Brown in the future, whether that is with, like you say, a secondary alignment, continue with special teams usage, but you drafted him high for a reason. So it's good call out. I mean, they for sure have plans. It's just you have too much depth, and it's a great problem to have.
Yeah, Sidney Brown's biggest problem is that they re-signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and Reed Blankenship is one of the best safeties in the league right now. So there's just not a lot of room in front of him. The same will go for Jeremiah Trotter Jr. All of us think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. could be starting for sure next year, but I mean, whether Nakobe Dean is going to be healthy, they obviously love Oren Burks, who's been fantastic in the postseason, and then there's Zach Baun. I mean, it's the product of Philadelphia nailing the past couple of drafts and really hitting free agency. And this is why you do have championship caliber teams, Josh. Every single year, you just take the Chiefs out of it because they have nice drafts. I don't say they have crazy good drafts, but obviously Patrick Mahomes has covers a multitude of sins. Most of the time, the other team in the Super Bowl playing the Chiefs had an incredible draft, had incredible free agency, and if you do that multiple times in a row like Philadelphia has now done basically the past 3 years, you can build a young core of guys that aren't going anywhere. As we talked about 20 minutes ago, the free agent class for Philadelphia this year, basically non-existent. I mean, Milton Williams is going to be a big loss, but Moro Ojomo's right there behind him. Moro Ojomo, Thomas Booker are two guys they're very excited about. They'll probably add another D tackle in the draft. Same thing goes for Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat will be a big loss. Jalen Hunt is going to be ready to go, basically, and they'll probably add an edge rusher early on, maybe in free agency, maybe in the trade with Myles Garrett. Who knows? But that's why these teams are, obviously in the Super Bowl, and it's a big reason why Philadelphia is set up, hopefully, for multiple deep championship runs over the course of the coming years. Remember, 2018, they were an Alshon Jeffrey drop away from back in the NFC title game and probably back to the Super Bowl. And it was the same thing. They had drafted well, free agency had gone well, and they were locked and loaded for another repeat.
Yep. I'm going to hit these super chats here in a second, and then we're going to wrap, but really quickly, because we just got some breaking news, not major, but just breaking news, because it's official from the Eagles. The injury report just dropped. So for people that are wanting it as quick as possible, the official news for a practice that took place today, and there's Jalen Carter. It was not even missing the practice. So good news, limited, still with the illness, but a limited participant. He is perfectly fine. He's going to be okay. Kenny Gainwell, limited. Brandon Graham with the elbow, triceps, whatever, limited. And Devontae Smith just being a little bit cautious with the hamstring, but he said he's good to go and playing. So
how about that?
Great news all around.
Okay.
We'll take it.
Very good news all around. Exactly what we were expecting, but needed to kind of wait and see.
Yeah. And we appreciate the Eagles for getting that info out on time, as usual. So we were able to cover that before we wrap up here. But let me get to these super chats, of course, because I appreciate you guys. Andre with the 20 bomb. Bro, I think it's the biggest one so far. The 20 bomb says, what will the so-called sports analysts be saying Monday morning when the Birds run up the score and win the Super Bowl against the Chiefs? This team is the most complete team in team history. Go Birds. Well, there'll be the so-called
They'll find a way.
national sports analysts will be kind of stumbling over themselves, I believe. There will be some that'll hold serve and go, well, it was this and that and blah, 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 all these other excuses. But then others,
Yeah.
I feel like they'll try to spin it in a way that it makes sense, but they won't fully own up to the fact that they were wrong in their assessment and how, the Eagles couldn't win. But, yeah, it'll be fun if we get there. Take care of business first.
That's all we got to do.
H-Town with a 5. We also appreciate that. Says Dallas and Smitty will be the real stars of this game. I wouldn't change anything. Let them adapt to us. We are the ones. # let's hunt. Would you say that too?
I want to bully him. I agree. I want to bully him. I would not go in this
Win
game
by 10, 15.
playing scared at all. I want to go. I mean, and Philadelphia has done this in both of their Super Bowls, right? They never really played scared. The only time Philadelphia blinked was in Super Bowl 57 in the fourth quarter, whenever things started kind of snowball in the wrong direction. Even when Jalen had the fumble with Nick Bolton, they didn't really blink. Same with the Super Bowl against Tom Brady. They were go, go, go. They went for on 4th down, pedaled to the metal. They sent a lot of blitzes, even though they didn't get home on either of those 2 games. I want to impose my will. I want to show the rest of the National Football League that they are like, this has been the best team all year long. We've been saying, you guys in the chat have been saying it. This has been the best team. Let's just go ahead and prove it out on the football field.
Yeah, and then they'll hopefully, most of the people will buy it because
most of them will.
But yes, let's have a no doubt. Leave no doubt. Too big to rig has been the comment quite a bit for people on this as well.
Too big to rig, baby.
Christian with a 2
rig.
Saying Nolan and Dallas will have a big game on this one. Heck yeah, you know that I'm for that. I'm gonna be wearing the Nolan Smith jersey. Thomas, I can't remember. Did I ask? Are you rocking the Smitty, or do you know what you're going with? Or
apparently, because we had talked about this last time, right? We have not lost an NFC title game when you wore your AJ Brown.
Right.
I wore my Devontae Smith jersey.
Yep.
The problem is, someone said they went back and looked, and I'm currently scrolling through my YouTube channel to see if this is true. I was wearing the Devontae Smith jersey when Philadelphia lost Super Bowl 57, and if that's the case, then I will go with my Kelly Green Jalen Carter jersey. So as I continue this 2 years ago, so. I can tell you in a second because I don't remember what I was wearing. But
I was going to say, if we could verify, we don't need to jinx this thing. So maybe
I think I was definitely wearing the Smitty one. But let me confirm here.
Okay. As you're looking at, I'll hit this other super chat. I will say the Nolan Smith Jalen Carter combo wouldn't be too bad because we had Smitty and AJ for NFC Championship. So I definitely cannot wear the AJ Brown because I wore that when we lost 57. Christian, another Christian, different Christian, but appreciate the 2, says, how about Tom Brady giving his Quinyanamo Bay, rookie defensive player of the year? Did he give that one to Quinyanamo Bay? I saw he gave
he did.
Zack Baun. Okay, I didn't see the Quinyon. So, okay, that's kind of cool. You give Zack Baun defensive player of the year and Quinyon Mitchell rookie defensive of the year. You wonder if there's like a little bit of tampering in that because Tom Brady's with the Raiders and Zack Baun and the possibility of free agency. But no, it couldn't be. It couldn't be. Just get it done, Howie. Make sure to sign Zack Baun. Make sure we're good there. Damon's with a 5. Appreciate that. Another 5. Says, let's not forget that Saquon is a damn good route runner. He has not been used in the receiving game. He's had one game, I think, over 10 yards in the last 4. It's like the last 4 or 5 games.
Not a lot.
So maybe so. You take advantage, especially if they like try to load up the box. Maybe you audible out of that or use some screen passes against him and go to Saquon. I wouldn't hate it. But yeah, he's a good route runner. That one-handed catch that he made was crazy. So I'm for it.
There you go. I also just looked and I was wearing my an Eagles t-shirt after the Super Bowl. So I might still go Jalen Carter. I think Nolan and Jalen Carter jerseys for the stream would be kind of fun.
It's not a bad combo.
I think that's the move.
I like that one.
We'll find out on Sunday.
Yes, it'll be a surprise for everyone else. They know what I'm going to wear. But anyway, Nate with the 2 says, you think Kellen is focused? With a question mark there.
What's up, Nate? I think so. There's no way to know. I'm still surprised he would want the Saint job. We always talked about, the 4X, 5X salary that comes with it. And so, you understand, and they can get rid of Derek Carr after next year and, whatever. But I think he is. And he was interviewing in the NFC Championship game, and he was not the guaranteed candidate during that time. So he's still, theoretically really battling for that job. The thought process is that he's already accepted the job. They just can't say that as of last week is kind of the, hush-hush, quiet closet handshake that's kind of been going around Philadelphia. So it should already be done. That way you can focus on the game, and then they'll announce it on Monday or Tuesday, and then we get ready for probably Kevin Patillo. But I hope it's going to be it's going to be fine. And it should be fine. I think the Eagle offense is going to be just fine.
Yeah. I'm not as concerned about, as you said, I'm not as concerned about just being focused, staying into this game. It's a big moment. Everyone knows that. But I think the one where we saw it play out more was probably, like you were referencing, Thomas, of the earlier interviews. Because once you get to the latter stages or having the further conversations, you kind of know, and the writing's on the wall. So at this point, this should be like, hey, this is essentially, assuming that he's basically already accepted the job, or in his mind it's already, this is like your last hoorah as an offensive coordinator. Like, you should go to all of the, not to, like turn the ball over to get too aggressive, but like you should be at the bottom of your play calls, like something in the most crazy or the biggest, opportunities there. Don't hold anything back, because you're about to get a head coaching gig, assuming he's accepting it. I want to see it. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not really buying into as much of, Kellen being distracted of taking another job. So
I feel good.
We'll see. Tyler with a 5. I think ended on this one. We appreciate that. Says, I called the Commanders blow up, or maybe blow out. Either way, blow up, blow out. I feel like the Chiefs aren't going to be ready for the Eagles' versatilities. Going with an Eagles prediction of 42 and Chiefs 24.
Gosh, I hope so.
Wow.
Oh, man.
We get that. We're going to be feeling great.
So.
18-point victory.
We're going to find out.
Let's go.
I hope you're right.
Let's end on that one. Tyler, we appreciate that. That's a good one. But score prediction puts you on the spot, as always. But,
I hadn't even thought of one.
Wednesday. So I'll give you a split second as I just make sure to get the total, the last up-to-date total on a Wednesday, which, again, it'll change.
Do they get to 30? That's the question.
And
I've asked that
1.5
single time in the postseason.
Yeah, it's 1.5, and then
our favor.
The total is 49. So
okay, 49.
Chiefs minus 1.5.
Yeah, I think they get to 30. I think that, you know what?
Okay.
You know what? I have asked this question every single time. Will they get to 30 versus the Commanders? What about the Rams?
Yeah.
They will get to 30. I'm going. It's either 31-21 or 31-24. Do I want double digits or not? I'll go 31-21. How about that?
31-21.
I want a double-digit win. I want a double-digit win. 31-21.
I do too. I do too. I really want that.
I want double digits. Yeah.
I'm going to go just a little bit less, though. I'm going to say, and my score predictions have changed over the last couple of days, so I know people, if you're watching this, you're going to go like, what in the world? So as of Wednesday, my score prediction updated, I'm going to say 27-20. It's still under the point total. I think it's going to be under. We've had so many overs this season, especially in the playoffs. I think it's a little bit more of defense. You got good field conditions, flying around, making plays. 27-20, and I would not be surprised if it's a backdoor Chiefs touchdown late. Like, it could be 27-13 and they score to make it closer, but I'm going to say 27-20. That's what I'll go with.
Okay. All right. There you go.
We love it. Appreciate everybody. Seeing lots of other comments as well. All Eagles victories, of course.
All Eagles.
Lots of confidence in here, so I can appreciate that. But let us know. We've got other shows obviously coming out as well. And again, don't miss out on the Super Bowl stream. We'll be going earlier than normal. I won't be as late. I'm going to try to be there on time. But it'll be an hour before. We'll be much earlier than normal. So an hour before, come hang out. But it'll be a blast. So, Thomas, appreciate it. We're almost there. Getting close. Hopefully the week flies by.
Let's just win it.
Let's do it. As always, appreciate you guys. Go Birds.
Go Birds.